Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. So today I'll be doing a full review on the Bastard's Knives Venator. Just an awesome knife and overall great design. But before I get into it, I just want to give a quick shout out to Manuel and Jorge. I met them at Blade Show Atlanta, and just a great group of guys. The whole team is great, and they're actually all really funny. So again, thank you very much for not only giving me this knife, but to get a full review and share it with you guys. So again, thank you very much. So let's get right into it. We'll start with the blade, which is made of N690 steel. So you're getting really good corrosion resistance, and it holds a cutting edge very, very well. You do get 3 3/4 inches of that steel and 4 inches of cutting edge. As you guys can see, it goes just a hair more past the top of the scales, so it does give you that extra amount of cutting edge. You do have a recurve and a beautiful belly. Now, I know a lot of people don't like recurves, but I personally don't mind them since I bought a sharpening stone, a round sharpening stone that actually takes care of this. So there's really no issue there as long as you have the right equipment. But you do have, I'd say, a three quarters of the blade that has a flat ground and a really nice swedge up here on top. Visually, it looks pleasing. Again, I love the shape of this blade. Now, I say flat grind, but I want to say it looks, when you look down the center of it, I want to say it's convex. But you guys let me know. I think it is flat ground, but my eyes are telling me convex. So it's not an issue. It cuts and slices very well, which I have footage of this knife or this blade cutting through some cardboard, which I'll put up right now. Now I'm cutting through some of the thicker cardboard here with the recurve section of the blade, which does a really, really good job of not only biting into the cardboard, but actually pulling it towards me or towards the bellied section area. Now, some of the glue from the cardboard is kind of fighting me here, so it is kind of gumming up the start of some of the cuts, but the blade is very sharp. And you can see here I'm using the bellied section to do some press cuts or push cuts. And I'm just pushing down towards the table, which does a really good job. And just kind of going back and forth between the recurved and the bellied section. But very comfortable in hand. Really no hot spots that I could notice. Maybe a little bit of the pocket clip, but very, very minimal. And again, these push cuts are really, really good when it comes to this blade. This blade is a little on the thicker side, so I wouldn't say it's a real slicer, but with the proper technique and just kind of slicing through, or a slicing motion, if you will, cuts through the cardboard very easily. And now I'm doing just some pull cuts on the table just to see how it slices through the cardboard. It almost goes all the way through, but I wasn't really putting a lot of pressure, but it does cut very nicely. And the next thing I'll be doing with some of the thinner cardboard is I'm going to do a kind of a pinch grip on the scale, or kind of pull back on the scales. And as you can see, placing my finger on the front just to get some more controlled cuts, and very maneuverable, very easy to cut with that pinch grip. And like I said earlier, very comfortable in hand. So when it comes to cardboard, it is a pleasure to use, and really no complaints when it comes to cutting through some of the cardboard, especially that thinner stuff. Now, I didn't get too crazy with this knife because obviously I don't get crazy with my knives. I usually just use them for breaking down boxes or just opening up some Amazon packages. So it performs very well with cardboard. And one thing I wanted to mention is the finish on this is really beautiful. You can see right here the original finish, that bead blast finish looks good. However, the cardboard does affect it, as you can see there. So that's why I'm a fan of stone washed blades, because it just kind of avoids this look. Future me here. So one thing I almost forgot was I thought their logo was really interesting. As you guys can see there, they're flipping the bird. I know there might be some people that are a little sensitive out there, but I like to view it just as them saying that they're number one. I think that's a good way to look at it, but I do like that they went that route. Just a really, really cool logo. And that's pretty much it on the blade. So let's go on to the scales and the liners. Now let's get a close look at those beautiful fat carbon scales. This material is called Blue Dark Matter from Fat Carbon. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. So you guys can see it dances and shifts in the light. I really do like those blue specks of color in the material. And also want to mention that they do provide different colors or variations of this material. So if you guys are looking for a different flavor, they do provide that, which I think is great. These are beautifully contoured and chamfered all the way around, which makes it very comfortable in hand, but very, very well executed scales. And moving on to the liners, which really surprised me. I thought they were titanium, but these are actually steel liners. And I think what threw me off was the bead blast finish, which matches pretty much everything else in the blade too. But again, it threw me off because of how light this knife is. I want to mention that the weight of this knife is just a hair over 6 ounces. And for its size, again, this, or I don't know if I mentioned it, but this knife overall is 9 1/4 inches. So a very, very large knife. However, the fact that the liners are steel and it is that light really surprised me. But I think what really adds to it is the fact that it's heavily skeletonized. So it does make it a lot lighter and very pleasant in hand and in pocket. But for its size, very, very light. Now the hardware on this knife is all titanium except for the steel thumb studs, which have really nice step texture on it. But the hardware is all titanium, which is really nice because if you do customize knives, you can anodize that, which maybe I'll do here in the future. But really like that they are titanium. And the back spacer here is also titanium. And they do provide you with a lanyard hole, which I don't really care for a lanyard hole. It just kind of takes away from, in this case, more material or more of that beautiful fat carbon material. But they do give you one of those. And moving on to the pocket clip, which is milled titanium. Beautifully done. Retention is very, very good. You do have the company's name on there, Bastards Knives. Really quick, just wanted to show you guys this knife in pocket. As you can see, it slides out very easily. But the retention is very good, very strong, so you're not going to lose this knife. And you can see as I slide this knife into pocket, even though it doesn't have a deep carry clip, very, very little is exposed. Also, this is a reversible pocket clip, as you guys can see the titanium filler tab here. So if you are a lefty, you can just swap it and you're good to go. I'd say the pocket clip is a bit on the long side, but I haven't had any issues. It doesn't give any hot spots. So I'm assuming it's longer because they wanted to fit their name on there, but again, not really an issue. I just want to let you guys know that it is on the long side. Overall, great pocket clip. Now let's move on to the action of this knife, which is really, really good. It is riding on ceramic ball bearings, so very, very smooth. And you do have those 2 steel thumb studs for deployment. Now the thumb action or deployment, very, very snappy. No complaints there. And the spidey flicking actually really easy, very simple. And the beautiful thing about this knife is it was a little stiff when I first got it out of the box. And now that I've been carrying it for 3.5, maybe a month now, I really wanted to take my time on doing a full review because I just wanted to make sure everything was good. But what I was trying to get at was it broke in very, very well. I didn't take this thing apart. I didn't clean it. I didn't add anything to it in that past month. And as you guys can see, the drop shot action on this thing is very, very good. And not only did it break in very well, but I'd say that drop shot action is coming from the fact that the blade stock is very, very thick. It is a heavy blade, so I mean that plays a part in it. But when I first got it, it's definitely a little bit to wiggle it shut, but now it's just, I mean, it's just butter. So excellent, excellent action. That is one thing I really love about this knife. Also want to mention the detent on this thing is, I think, is exactly where it needs to be. So no complaints on that as well. Now, since I have the knife deployed, I want to give you guys a little size comparison with some popular knives. We'll start off with the Elementum. You can see here, again, very, very large knife. 2 inches more than that, but there's the Elementum. We have the Para 3, very popular knife. So you can see there, about the same as the Elementum. And then we have a Mini Adamas here by Benchmade. I do like the full-size Mini Adamas too, but the Mini is just one of my favorites. You can see there maybe 1.5 inch difference. And then we have one of my favorite cold steels ever, the 8010, which is still, this knife is just a hair smaller, but I'd say they're really, really close, as you guys can see. So if you do love the 8010, it's very, very similar in size to that knife. And moving on to what type of lock this is. This is a liner lock. As I mentioned, this does have full liners. And you can see it's about a 45, almost 50% lockup, but really easy to access that liner lock. They do have some cutouts or some grooves there to access it. And they also cut it just a hair back here on the show side liner to gain access to it. So access to that liner lock, perfect. I mean, you can't really not get to it. So very, very well executed with the access to the liner lock. And again, excellent lockup, so no complaints there either. One thing that I found really interesting with this folding knife was that it comes with a sheath, which again, this is a first for me, but you can actually use this knife as a neck knife, and it works really well. The retention on this sheath is very, very strong, which is something you definitely want in a neck knife. And over here you can see I'm wiggling and jiggling as hard as I can. Again, the retention is very strong, and I'm dropping it here quite a few times just to show you guys that. But really interesting that it comes with a sheath, so you can use it outdoors or for camping, but very, very well done. And last but not least, let's talk about the ergos on this thing. The ergos on this knife are really, really good. Really no complaints, no hot spots. One thing I've noticed, I wouldn't even really call it a hot spot, but my hand kind of notices the tip of the pocket clip. But again, it's so subtle, I can barely pick up on it. But that's really my only complaint about how it feels in hand. Other than that, really, really well executed in the ergos department. And as you guys can see, very large choil here in the front. I can fit 2 fingers in there comfortably. And as you can see, a lot of real estate here in the back. So again, if you have large hands, this is one knife I would highly recommend because plenty of room back there. Your thumb falls on this little jimped area. It would have been nice if they added just a little bit more jimping, because naturally my thumb falls here a little bit past the thumb studs. So maybe if they put a little bit more jimping here, it'd be even more perfect. And maybe possibly here in the front, kind of like some Jesper Voxn's designs. So when you do a pinch grip, you have a little bit more control. But really I guess that's really my only complaint. I wouldn't even consider the pocket clip a complaint because like I said, it's barely noticeable. And the reverse grip on this thing is really, really comfortable because my fingers actually arc over this bellied area in the handle, and my pinky lands kind of in this choil area. But very, very comfortable for stabbing tasks or whatever you got to do. But even this rounded area where my thumb goes over, again, super, super comfortable. I really like how it feels in hand that way. But either way, feels really good. I know I keep saying it, but ergos are amazing on this thing. Overall, beautiful design, beautiful knife. I love this thing. And I'm glad Bastards Knives, Manuel and Jorge were kind enough to give me this knife to review and, again, share with you guys. So that's pretty much it. That is my full review on the Bastards Knives Venator. Beautiful design. I love a good belly, and overall size it's a massive knife, but I think it's great. And let me know down below if you guys have one of these, what you guys think, or if you guys would even consider getting one of these. Speaking of getting one of these, if you guys are interested in picking one up, I noticed that White Mountain Knives carries these. And as you guys know, if you guys put in Nathan's Knives at White Mountain Knives, you get a 10% discount on that website. And I'll leave it down below in the description. So again, if you guys are interested, you can pick up one of these sweet knives. Again, highly recommended if you have large hands. And even if you don't have large hands, still pick one up. Beautifully, beautifully done from Bastards Knives. Now, before I end the video, I do want to mention I will be customizing this knife here pretty soon. Don't know exactly what I'll be doing to it, but I want to get really creative with it, and I really want to impress Bastards Knives. Do something that will probably throw them for a loop in a good way, but just keep your eyes peeled for a custom video on this thing, which I am really excited for. But that is it, you guys. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate the support. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.